Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Adam Smith, and inside this video, I'm excited to be going through my top 10 solo boss battler board games for people who love epic boss fights. The intent of the list is to help new solo gamers looking for boss battlers to check out, and also experienced solo gamers maybe looking for a new game to play. And if you're coming from the video game scene and you love playing games that involve boss battles, you are probably going to find something here that's going to give you something vastly different than you'd find in the digital space with video games. Regardless of how you found the video, we're glad you're here, and we hope you'll become part of the solo board gaming community as we're talking about new solo board games coming up in the future, but even still talking about games that have been around for years, and this list is no exception. You're going to see games that have been out for years and others that are more recently released. And my hope for you is you'll find at least one game on the list here that is of interest to you, whether it comes from the top 10 portion of the list or from the honorable mentions or Hall of Fame. Now, before we get into the games, let's talk about the criteria behind the list. First off, it has to be playable solo. Second off, the core game has to have been released within the last 10 years. Also, the boss has to be the focus of the game. So if you actually took the boss out of the equation, the game would actually lose its overall objective because, well, that is the point of a boss battler. Also, the boss has to have a full AI system, so it should feel like you're actually dealing with a puzzle to take down the boss, not just a sponge for damage. The games on this list also have bosses that evolve, so they're not just static bosses. They're going to evolve through leveling up, upgrading, going through phases as you go through your battle with them. Also, the player character's build exists to fight the boss. So the whole idea is you have a character that's upgrading, gearing up, and an aim to actually prepare for a boss during gameplay. And the final criteria for the list is that the arena or the environment that the boss is in is very important. In other words, the movement is not fluff. It's actually tactical, it's based on survival and positioning to try to be in a good position to attack and also to avoid being attacked by the boss. So now that you understand the list criteria for my top 10, let's dig into the honorable mentions. These are going to be fantastic games to check out if you want to look for more games in the boss battler realm. Now, these may have all the list criteria, or they might be missing one or two here or there, or a little bit shaky on some of them, or they just didn't land in the top 10 because me personally, I put them in the honorable mentions, of course. But these are other games you can check out if you're interested in specific themes, gameplay, or you're after something, maybe a certain IP that you're very interested in. These are definitely worth checking out. And even more important than the honorable mentions are the Hall of Fame entries. These are games which, in my opinion, would 100% be in the top 10 territory if they weren't 10 plus years old in terms of their core box original release. So that's things like Aeon's End, Assault on Doomrock, Kingdom Death Monster, and Shadows of Brimstone. All these have aspects of being a boss battler, or in Kingdom Death Monster's case, are literally one of the most popular in the entire line. And to be completely honest, if that was actually an entry in the top 10 based on when it was released, it would be in the number one position without a doubt. And so in my opinion, Kingdom Death Monster is still the top number one selection to go after if you're looking for something that falls within this list. There's a number of other games to check out as well, but this is in the Hall of Fame because of how epic it is, along with all these other entries. So without further ado, we are ready to jump into top 10 territory. Starting off in the 10th position, Final Girl from Van Ryder Games is the purest one-on-one boss battler on this entire list. It's literally you, a killer, and a map. There's no distractions, not many extra mechanics beyond you trying to survive this horror puzzle where every move you make in the game is going to matter. Your objective is to manipulate the killer, rescue victims, manage your card economy, and survive long enough to strike back. Now, every killer has a unique AI deck that shifts the behaviors based on where you are. You win by slowly outmaneuvering the killer, timing your attacks, and avoiding that one mistake that will literally end your run. What makes the game special is the clarity around it. Everything is about the boss in this one. The location changes the tension, the killer evolves through different tarot cards, and the whole experience feels like being dropped into the third act of a slasher movie. It's distilled boss battling, and it's phenomenal. My number 9 is Too Many Bones from Chip Theory Games. At its core, Too Many Bones is all about preparing for a single boss battle, the Tyrant. Everything you do leading up to the fight is about shaping your gear lock, building your toolkit, getting ready for the final showdown, and when the Tyrant arrives, it's usually a puzzle wrapped in a tactical challenge, which is also wrapped in RNG. Your objective in solo is to build a character that can survive the boss's unique mechanics, the weird rules it's going to throw at you, and the battlefield tricks it'll use to its advantage. You win by solving the Tyrant's intense puzzle, whether that's managing the positioning, timing your dice, manipulating your turn order, and making your build sing in the final few rounds. At least you're hoping that that's the case. Now, what makes Too Many Bones a great boss battler is how different every tyrant's going to feel when you're playing against them. They're all bizarre in the best ways. They force you to do these weird side builds and unusual tactics to try to crack the boss's pattern, and that can be incredibly satisfying when you get victories. My number 8 is Cthulhu Death May Die, which is, in my opinion, chaos. You are not methodically dissecting the boss in this one. You are diving headfirst into madness. You blow things up. You're trying to finish the ritual before the old one awakens, and will try to level the entire board with your character as part of it. Now, your objective is to disrupt the ritual, control the cultists on the board, and push the Elder One into its final form so you can actually damage it, because only then can you do that. And when it arrives, you're basically in survival mode. You win by landing enough damage before the ever-shifting chaos overwhelms you, and there's a lot of it, so expect to be quite surprised by how the bosses act in this one. What makes the game stand out for a boss battler is how cinematic it feels. The bosses don't just evolve, they literally erupt on the board and immediately start controlling the entire board in the battlefield. So the pacing gets really fast, flashy, and wild, but it requires tactical thinking, and you got to be prepared. So if you want boss battles that feel like you're playing through the finale of an action horror movie, this one delivers every single time you play it, and the tension is amazing. Number 7 on my list is Marvel Champions from Fantasy Flight Games, which isn't always thought of as a boss battler, but when you look at it really close, that's exactly what it is. Every scenario is a direct fight against a villain who has multiple stages, an evolving plan, tons of ways to disrupt your strategy as you go through the game, and the entire game exists to support the final confrontations you're going to have with that boss. Your objective in the game is to break the villain before their scheme hits its endpoint, so you manage your hero deck, you alter between hero and civilian forms, and you time your big turns as the villain keeps throwing minions at you, side schemes, nasty boosts your way. You win by balancing mitigation and momentum. You have to know when to defend, when to flip, and when to push for a lethal hit. So what makes the game really fun is that every villain's going to feel different. Rhino's not going to be Ultron, Ultron won't be Loki, Loki's not Magneto, so they all have their own distinct behaviors that force you to adjust your entire deck strategy, which is pretty cool. And if you want a card-driven boss fight with endless replayability, this literally is the choice. My number 6 is Townsfolk Tussle from Panic Roll Games, which takes classic cartoon aesthetics and wraps them around surprisingly tough boss encounters. Each fight you go into pits you against one of the ruffians, and each with its own comedic but very dangerous AI deck and battlefield quirks you'll have to constantly deal with as they shake up your plans. Your objective in the game is to knock out the ruffian before the town gets flattened, and you'll manage movement gear and quirky abilities that you gain while the boss wreaks havoc across the arena. You win in the end by reading the boss's pattern, dodging its weird behaviors, and landing hits when the opportunities pop up. What I find unique about Townsfolk Tussle is its unpredictability. The game is delightfully chaotic, but it consistently is tactical. The bosses are going to feel distinct, the animations come to life through AI, and the whole thing just feels like fighting Saturday morning nightmares in the best way possible. It's charming, it's tense, and it's endlessly replayable. We've reached top 5 territory, and in the 5th position, a recently released game, Grimcoven from Awakened Realms, which is a boss battler with a surprising amount of depth. You're facing off against eldritch horrors in these tight, puzzle-like arenas where every move you make affects the next 3 turns. The game isn't about being a big tactical sprawl, it's about clever hand management, timing, and manipulating the battlefield to force the boss into unfavorable patterns. In the game, your objective is to break the boss before it breaks you. The boss is going to shift between different forms and behaviors, creating a pattern you have to learn and exploit. You win by managing your limited tools, predicting what's coming next, and squeezing every trade, combo, and position to your advantage. What makes the game stand out is how pure the design is. There's no excess, there's no filler, just you versus the relentless evolving threat. So every turn feels meaningful, and the moment you finally sync your plan together, it becomes one of the cleanest boss battler experiences on the market. Number 4 on my list is Oathsworn Into the Deepwood from Shadowborn Games, which might be known for its storybook exploration, but when you strip that away, what you're really getting is one of the most finely tuned boss fight engines in board gaming. Every showdown you play is like a tactical skirmish where you and your companions are trying to survive a brutal monster that never stops escalating. It's fast, snappy, and incredibly reactive. Your objective is straightforward: to outmaneuver and outlast the encounter by acting efficiently with your group. The boss runs on a multi-phase AI deck that unlocks nastier patterns and area control attacks as the fight goes on, and you win by carefully breaking the boss's health nodes, managing your cooldowns and positioning your fighters so you aren't caught in the next giant swing. But what makes this game top tier is the fact that it has such great pacing. The game has this natural rhythm where tension keeps rising, the arena keeps shifting, and your abilities keep pushing you to take risks. It rewards smart positioning, coordinated combos, and good timing, everything you'd want from a clean, tactical boss encounter. It's tight, thematic, and always exciting to play. Into the top 3 we go. In the 3rd position, Kingdoms Forlorn, Dragons, Devils, and Kings. This comes from Into the Unknown, and it takes the dark fantasy dungeon crawl and refocuses everything into brutal personal boss fights. Each boss is basically a self-contained story, which is a mystery you have to slowly unravel as you learn its moves, behaviors, and special quirks. You're not grinding through rooms in this one or fighting trash mobs. You are gearing up for a single confrontation that mixes narrative puzzle solving and raw tactical decision making. Your objective in the game is to outlast the boss and dismantle its threats one piece at a time. You'll be dealing with evolving stances, changing attack patterns in the boss's domain, which wraps the arena and creates these strange thematic hazards. You win by exploiting weaknesses, using terrain wisely, and timing your most impactful cards before the boss shifts into a nastier form. What makes the game special is how personal each boss actually feels. They're weird, they're unsettling, and often unpredictable, so the fights kind of have a mood about them, a tone that makes every encounter feel like a doomed fairy tale where you're trying to survive long enough to rewrite your own ending. If you want a boss battle with a ton of atmosphere and identity, this one absolutely nails it. My number 2 is Aeon Trespass Odyssey from Into the Unknown, who also held the 3rd position in Kingdoms Forlorn. So if you're looking for a publisher to keep an eye on for boss battlers, Into the Unknown is definitely that publisher. Now, Aeon Trespass Odyssey is a giant mythic odyssey built around absolutely massive tactical boss fights. So even though the world and narrative and discoveries are huge, the game still qualifies as a boss battler because everything eventually funnels into those massive multi-stage battles against primordials. You'll control a team of Argonauts piloting Titans, which are living suits of mythic armor, and you're constantly managing positioning, aggression, and which Titan is about to crumble under the pressure. Your objective in the game is to bring the primordial down by learning its patterns, breaking its body parts, and exploiting how it shifts through each evolution. You win by surviving long enough to expose its core weaknesses and time your finishing blows before the fight spirals out of control. What makes Aeon Trespass Odyssey such a standout boss battler is the AI system. Each primordial reacts based on the state of the board, so who angered it last, which body part you targeted, how much damage it's taken overall, and what phase it's in. The battle feels like a massive Greek tragedy unfolding one move at a time, and if you love deep tactical puzzles with shifting priorities and big cinematic turns, then Aeon Trespass Odyssey is going to deliver boss fights on a scale few games can even match. And my number 1 solo boss battler for people who love epic boss fights is Primal the Awakening from Reggie Games. Now, it's worth mentioning, if you didn't see the beginning of the video, Kingdom Death Monster landed on my Hall of Fame, and what that means is it's outside the criteria of the list. Now, if this list was an all-time list, it would 100%, in my opinion, be at the very top of the list. But my criteria for this list, as mentioned in the beginning of the video, is that the game's core must have been released originally within the last 10 years, and Kingdom Death Monster is now outside of that, and so it's in my Hall of Fame and doesn't have a spot on this list. But that does not mean it's not a fantastic option. It is by far my favorite, but I believe Primal the Awakening has taken the limelight in terms of the most recent boss battler that everybody's talking about. In Primal, you're not exploring a world or running through quests. Everything revolves around one gigantic cinematic boss encounter. Before the fight, you fine-tune your hunter's gear, your skills, your combat cards, and once you step into that arena, the entire game locks into this tight loop of reading the boss, reacting to its attacks, and exploiting tiny openings before it shifts on you again. The goal of the game is simple on paper: take down the monster before it takes you out, but the boss is always evolving in this game. There's new phases to unlock, there's body parts that will break, there's AI decks that are going to shift, and the creature gets more aggressive the closer you get to victory. To win the game, you have to manage your stamina, time your biggest combos together, and find ways to control the arena so you aren't cornered when the next big attack lands. What makes Primal such a fun boss battler is how alive the creatures feel. They really do feel individual and unique. They leap, they charge, they roar, they reposition, they absolutely punish you if you try brute force through the fight. Every turn feels like you're adapting to a thinking opponent. If you want a pure, beautifully executed boss fight where every decision matters, Primal is about as good as it gets. And that, my friends, wraps up my top 10 solo boss battler board games for people who love epic boss fights. You're definitely going to find something amazing in any of these 10 that I've listed in the top 10, but also be sure to go back and check out the honorable mentions and the Hall of Fame at the beginning of the video to find even more awesome options out there for you. So if you're a new solo gamer, you got a lot to dig into here. If you're experienced, you might have to start digging into the honorable mentions list in order to find some ones you have never heard of or have never tried yourself. I had an absolute blast going through the list with you guys, and if you're new to the channel, this is your first time here, be sure to check out the Discord server or the Facebook group to get connected with other solo gamers where you can learn about more games beyond this list video. I've got a whole bunch of videos on the channel that'll help you get into solo board gaming. You'll see what it's all about, and you'll find it is very, very addicting. There's lots of great games out there to check out, and if you want to support the channel as well in the future, would love to see you become a member. There's a join button as well on the homepage where you can get exclusive perks for the channel. But besides all that, I really appreciate you watching the video. Thanks again, and as always, keep on rolling solo.